Now, my experience has been that not a lot of people speak about Advaita Acharya all that much. So I thought maybe this would be something nice, new, different, refreshing. I entitled this talk, Advaita Acharya, Convincing God to Appear. Now, if you look at the altar here, this is the temple of Panchatattva, the five energies or the five manifestations of the Godhead are on the altar. And Advaita Acharya, he's senior to them all, older guy. He's got white hair and a beard, so that would make him senior, wouldn't it? In the transcendental scheme of things, maybe not so. Definitely in terms of the to you today. I don't read a lot. Mostly speak. I have not. Advaita Acharya, hears something once and commits. Isn't that wonderful? That's the problem with Kali Yuga. The Iron Age, no offense, but our intellects keep dwindling. You know, we can't even. What's your number again? Huh? Vande Tam Sham. Yasya Prasadi. See, even a foolish person can describe his characteristics. Well, we're going to put that to the test right now, aren't we? We're going to see how much this fool can describe his characteristics. This book, I don't know if any of you have read it. Mom. Gosh. Be quiet, my friend, because this is being broadcast out around the entire world. Who was 500 years ago when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared on the planet? That is he in the middle of warm winter there on the altar, on the deity. So the carvers Kirtan was their posse, their people. And so let me just run down the. So Isha was a contemporary of Chaitanya. Also, he attended Acharya and did that all with devotees years ago. Bengal, and it gets, our morality seems to be declining over time. I think you might agree with me, in our world. When he saw it was filled with terrible sins, he thought, how can I deliver the living entities in this age? What can I do to help them? Why would he do that? Because he's very merciful. After a long discussion with Yogamaya is the internal potency of the deity, feminine energy, the Shakti. Internal potency meaning she's primarily in charge of spiritual energy, as opposed to Mahamaya, Durga, primarily in charge of material energy. After a long discussion with Yogamaya, he concluded that no one other than Lord Hari himself, God, could deliver the fallen souls. Sadashiva, who is always joyful at heart, then went to the shore of the causal ocean. That great yogi then sat in yogic meditation for 700 years consecutively. Some of us can't do 7 minutes. Never mind 700 years. He meditated until Mahavishnu, the Lord of the universe, was pleased by his severe austerities and appeared before him. So, the material energy is 1/4 of the full manifestation of God's energy. The spiritual energy is 3/4. That's the way it's described in the Vedas. I don't know if that's an exact measurement, but you know. So when it's time for another round of material creation, Vishnu expands himself into another form of Vishnu, known as Mahavishnu, and he lies down in the causal ocean. What is the causal ocean? It is a huge, huge ocean whose limits are indeterminable. Where does he do this? At the bottom of the pradhana, of the unmanifest material energy. He lies in that ocean. And he lies on Sheshanaga, serpent couch, and he goes into yoga nidra, mystic sleep. And he dreams the creation. He dreams it. I love that. I love that. He dreams it, and it happens. And it happens as he expands or exhales one breath. One breath. But you have to understand how large Mahavishnu is. You can't read it compared to us. Mm-hmm. Infinite versus the infinitesimal. That's us. One breath, as he breathes out, the entire creation gets manifest. How does it manifest? For those of you who haven't seen this, like this. It comes, each universe comes out through the pores of his body. And then the creation has to take place within each and every universe. There are millions upon millions of universes. But of course we're told that there's only one, and we're here, and there's only, of course, one planet with any life on it, and here we are. Aren't we lucky? That's what happens. And then, after he finishes exhaling, he inhales, and what happens then? The whole material manifestation comes back into his body. Can you imagine? How many lifetimes did you spend while that was going on? I don't know. But that's Mahavishnu. So, back to our story. The Lord of the universe, pleased by Shiva's severe austerities, appeared before him. When the five-headed Shiva saw Lord Narayan there, Narayan means he who lies down upon the water. Well, he's doing that. Causal ocean. He offered many indescribable prayers, and then Mahavishnu said, "You and I are non-different, except for our separate bodies." Shiva and Vishnu are non-different. Sometimes it is compared milk to yogurt. What is the difference between milk and yogurt? Well, there is a difference, as we all know, but it's essentially the same substance in a different form. Saying this, he embraced Shiva, and their two bodies became one. Ooh. What are they doing? Are they working on the street out there? Or what? And the two bodies became one. Who could understand his mind? It was most wonderful how they became one form with pure, golden, effulgent limbs, chanting Krishna, Krishna. Suddenly there was a miraculous voice from the sky saying, "Listen, Mahavishnu. You first descend in this form, this combined form of Shiva and Vishnu, into the womb of Labha." That was the woman who carried the baby. That's her name, Labha. Very evolved, elevated soul, obviously. For you ladies who are planning on giving birth to some manifestation of Vishnu or God, I encourage you. But you have to be in a certain state of mind and a degree of qualification in order to do it. Can it be done? Yes, can be done. You first descend in the form, in this form in the womb of Labha. Later, I will descend in the district of Nadia, in the house of Shachi and Jagannath Mishra. Balaram and the other devotees will also take birth in order to deliver the living entity. So, that's clear. On hearing this, Mahavishnu, who is non-different from Lord Shiva, entered the womb of Labha in Shantipur, in West Bengal. Sometimes people wonder, because the Vedas predict all the avatars. There cannot be an avatar of the Godhead unless it's predicted in the Vedas. And then the question becomes, why do they all appear in India? Seemingly, they almost all appear in India. Maybe the odd one in Nepal, but mostly in India. Because of the degree, the civilization in India, the consciousness of the people, and how many millennia the people have been absorbed in spiritual practice, self-realization, and devotion to God. India is by far the #1 planet of spiritual practice, country of spiritual practice, historically and currently. Slipping a bit currently, I think, with all the Western influence, but that's the fact. Any country, an avatar of God can take place, it can take birth, and can appear in any country. It depends on the vibration of the country and the environment in which it happens. I went to see Prabhu once for a Prabhu Sanhita reading back in 1989, quite some time ago. And Prabhu refers to Western countries, because it said, oh, this man is, he said my parents' names, and this is his name, and what is that?
It's the wind.
Is
No, it's the wind. Yeah, you can pull it. It locks it, yeah.
that okay? Okay. Solve the problem. So Virgo says, this devotee, meaning me at the time, has come from Pataladesh. That's what he calls the Western world. Pataladesh. The hellish country, or the hellish place. That's what it means in Sanskrit. I was living in the U.S. at the time. Well, I guess that's Pataladesh. Why would he call it such a thing? Do you know? Because of mass slaughter. Industrial scale slaughter of animals. Cows in particular. That's why they call it that. Anyway. So, Labha was an austere, chaste, religious-minded wife of Kubera Pandit. Previously, the well-to-do Kubera Pandit, money, had devotedly performed austerities and chanted mantra to get Shiva as his son. He prayed for Shiva as his son. Lord Shiva was pleased by his austerities and agreed by saying, so be it. Your desire will be fulfilled. That is why Kubera took birth in this world. He was given the name Shriman Kubera Acharya. This is his father. And by dint of his knowledge and practice of dharma and spirituality, he was worshipable by all. I am unable to describe all his good qualities. People glorify him as the son of Nrsimha. That was his father's name. So, he took birth in a Brahmin family. And his father was a scholar. His father was also the advisor to the king at that time. And the king's name was Divya Singha. and his father was a mantri, the minister or advisor to the king. So he was pretty high birth in terms of his social placement. Okay, I'm going to skip that part. He and his wife, Kuvera and Labha, were having a lot of difficulty conceiving, and actually they had miscarriages also, I believe. Anyway, they went to Shantipur, right on the Ganges, on the Ganga, in West Bengal. Shantipur would be across the Ganga on the other side from Mayapur, where Chaitanya took birth. I don't know, have you been there? Have you been to Shantipur? Anybody? Yes. Advaita's house. It's really a wonderful spot. Very transcendental place. I highly recommend you go there sometime. I've been there a few times. So while they were there, a Brahmin astrologer came and said, listen, Pandit Mahashaya, there's no doubt that you will get a divine son. He will live a long life and be fully conversant with religious codes of scriptures. I can see that he will widely preach devotional service. Bhakti Yoga. Saying this, the astrologer disappeared. Later, when the king heard about this, the king searched for the astrologer. Sent his men out, go find that astrologer, I want to meet him. But he could not be found. Considering this very much astounding, because the king, I guess, had a lot of men, people consider the astrologer must have been some demigod. The Acharya was pleased by the astrologer's prediction. He returned home. He explained everything to his wife, Labha, who replied, the Lord's glories are unlimited. By his grace, our miseries may disappear. Saintly persons say that whoever worships Lord Vishnu with devotion will meet with good fortune. Can anybody attest to that? Any of you devotees of Vishnu, of God, of Krishna? Can you attest to that? That you're meeting with good fortune in your life? Yeah, some heads are nodding. So, Advaita takes birth. Now, I think I'll just mention who the manifestations of the Panchatattva are, so we have that in our minds. So, in the middle is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. We're going to read about that in a moment. Yeah, better start on that. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is a manifestation of Vishnu Tattva, God energy, the energy of God himself, and also of Hladini Shakti, the pleasure potency of Radha. So Krishna and Radha, his divine consort, combined. Why would he take a form of the male energy of the Godhead and the female Shakti of the pleasure potency in one body? And he took the color or the complexion of Radha, which is a golden complexion. That's what he chose. He wanted to experience what Radha experiences in relationship in divine loving exchange with Krishna. So in order to do that, he decided to manifest both in the one form. Now, for us, that would be tricky, to say the least. And even for Chaitanya, when you start reading his pastimes in the latter part of his life, it was pretty tricky too, because he would go into paroxysms of ecstasy, and he'd lose lose consciousness, and he'd have various kinds of ecstatic symptoms that would manifest in his body. The most extreme being the limbs would come apart at the joints. They'd still be all connected, but they'd come apart at the joints. So that was the extreme symptom. Difficult to go around like that. And then they come back together when he came back to reality, so to speak. So that's Chaitanya. To his right, that's your left, that's Nityananda. Nityananda is a manifestation. If Chaitanya is Vishnu Tattva, the first manifestation of the Chaturvyuha, the four manifestations of Vishnu, that is Vasudeva. Chaitanya would be Vasudeva. Nityananda would be Sankarshan, who manifests in Krishna Lila as Lord Balaram, right? Who manifests in Ram Lila as Lakshman. Then Advaita, who we talked about, who we are talking about, is an incarnation of Vishnu Tattva combined with Shiva. Because he is non-different from the Supreme Lord, he eventually got the name Advaita. Actually, when he was born, they called him Kamalaksha, lotus-eyed one. Mahavishnu performs all the functions for the creation of the universes. Sri Advaita Acharya is his direct incarnation. That Purusha, or personality, creates and maintains with his external energy. He creates innumerable universes in his pastimes. This is Vishnu that I told you about earlier. Okay, to Chaitanya's left, to your right, is Gadadhar Pandit. Now Gadadhar, even though in a male form, he has a manifestation of the Hladini Shakti, the pleasure potency of the Godhead. And then finally, on our right, far right, is Srivas, or Srinivas. And he is Jiva Tattva. He is the only one that isn't something to do with Vishnu Tattva or Vishnu Shakti. He is actually Jiva, like we are. A regular soul, so to speak. And he is an incarnation. He serves the purpose of being an incarnation of the devotee. And who was he in a previous lifetime, do you know? Narada Muni. That's who he is. So that's the five of them, Panchatattva. So Advaita grew up in his family, which was attached to the palace, because his was the advisor. And the temple that was nearby that everybody would go to was a Kali temple. And Kali is a manifestation of Durga, Maya, or the divine feminine, material energy. But Kali or Durga worship is very, very popular and very widespread in India. So that was Kali. And, you know, you pray to Durga or Kali specifically to get your desires fulfilled. I mean, we're here in the material world, we need things. Do you have to pray to them to get your desires fulfilled? Well, Chaitanya will tell you that all you need to do is pray to Vishnu and everything will be taken care of, because Kali would be demigoddess, you know, on that level. Anyway, that was a nearby temple, so that's where they would go to do their worship. And one time there was a Kali festival. Well, they'd have, you know, probably once a year. And, you know, you had your dais, your main place where the king would sit with his queen, and then you'd have the minister and his family, and the king and his family. You'd be at the head table above the whole festival, that sort of thing. So everybody, and Kali Devi, a manifestation of her, maybe it was the portable deity or the full deity, I don't know. She would have been out in the middle. They bring them outside so everybody can see the deity and pay their respects. So Advaita, everybody was sitting at this dais, the main table, and Advaita came to join. He had a place for him reserved, and he just sat down in his place. The king looked over at him. He said, "What's going on here?" He said, "Oh, how are you coming? You're coming in and you commit offense. You don't bow down before Kali. You don't bow down." And he said, "Well, I paid my respects before I came in, Your Highness." No, this is unacceptable. Kubera Pandit, your son, he behaves like this. Is how you've taught him? You must pay your respects. Well, he knew that there might be a problem if he did that, because this is Mahavishnu / Shiva. And he's supposed to bow down to Kali. So he went, well, okay. So he did. He bowed down, he paid his pranams, and the deity smashed into 1,000 pieces. Kali smashed her son because she was fully conscious, fully aware. Her energy's in the deity. And he just broke into 1,000 pieces because Vishnu has no business bowing down to her. She's a servant to Vishnu. So that's one of the stories with Advaita. I'm not going to have time to read these. I'm just going to have to remember them as best I can. Advaita studied all the Vedas, and he became a great scholar. He knew everything. He studied Sanskrit grammar and prosody and nidukti and everything. Astrology. He married 2 daughters of, let's see, what was his name? Nrsinga Bauri had 2 daughters, and they were down at the river. And the 2 sisters were a manifestation of Lakshmi and Sita. And they're very, very beautiful young girls. He was of marriageable age. And he noticed them, they noticed him. And so they knew that they had found their husband. And saying this, Nrsinga Baudi, along with his 2 daughters, joyfully went to Advaita Prabhu's home to accept his invitation. Advaita received them with respect, proper etiquette. Then Advaita to himself, "Today my birth is successful. Today I have reaped the fruits of millions of past pious activities. Millions of lifetimes of punya. I have directly experienced what I have heard about him. He is most suitable recipient for my daughter's hands." So again, this is another example of a soul who would have spent many, many, many lifetimes in prayer and meditation and supplication to God, asking for a special boon or blessing, that he would give birth to these daughters, or the daughters would somehow in his family, he'd have Vishnu himself appearing, or Shiva himself, depending. And that's what happened here again. The 2 daughters' affection for Advaita became one by his association, just as 2 pieces of wax become one when heated. Bahuri thought, if Lord Hari is merciful to me, then my long cherished desire will be fully satisfied. Advaita Acharya, by his divine potency, appeared then, transformed the whole situation in his home. He transformed it immediately. His residence transformed into a palace that was decorated with various flowers, so that it resembled Indra's abode. The whole town of Shantipur was filled with a divine fragrance, as Advaita Prabhu sat on a jeweled throne. His enchanting form derided the luster of gold from the Jambu River and the shining of many moons. He wore a jeweled crown on his head, bracelets on his wrists, earrings on his ears, and ankle bells on his feet. He wore two pieces of white silk cloth, and his limbs were smeared with aguru, sandalwood, and musk. So, this is how the wedding ceremony took place. I won't read you all that. It's explained that the sisters wanted to cross the Ganga one day, who are now Advaita's wives. It was Janava and Lakshmi. And there was a festival across the river. And all the boats were already engaged to get across the Ganga. And the girls wanted to get there. They were in a hurry to get there. So they walked across the water. They walked on the water. And they decided to cross the Ganga that way, so they wouldn't miss the festival. So that's the Vishnu Shakti. Sita, the embodiment, this is one of the girls. Sita, the embodiment of compassion, smiled and said, liberation or moksha is the maidservant of bhakti, devotion. Bhakti controls all. Even though one may achieve the five kinds of liberation, he may still not attain the lotus feet of Hari, of God. The nature of liberation is that it sometimes makes one proud. And if one is proud because he's become spiritually advanced, then there's a chance that he falls down from his position and again comes to engage in the material world, in material activities. Bhakti Devi is endowed with unlimited transcendental qualities. So now you're talking about the personification of love and devotion to God, Bhakti Devi. She is endowed with unlimited transcendental qualities. Whoever attains her favor never takes birth again. One relishes the ecstasy of pure love while rendering devotional service. And after attaining Krishna's lotus feet, one sees the happiness of Brahman realization or moksha when we merge into the energy of the Godhead and lose our identity in the process, typically. Then we see that as insignificant compared to a loving, reciprocal exchange with God himself. Okay. Now, Advaita was living in Shantipur across the Ganga from Mayapur and Navadvip. And his job was to importune God to appear. And the manifestation of God is, of course, Chaitanya. So he would sit on the bank of the Ganga daily. There's a story which we won't have time to talk about, of him acquiring a Shalagram Shila. Shalagram Shila, as most of you know, is a sacred stone. I think they're commonly found in the Narmada River.
In Gandaki.
Gandaki River.
Yes.
Also Narmada, no?
No.
Only Gandaki.
Yes.
In the south?
No, in Himalaya.
Oh, okay. I thought they had some in the south as well. Okay, in the Gandaki, in the Himalaya. And it's a special stone which has markings of the Godhead like Shankar, Chakra, Gada, Padma, the conch, the chakra, the club, or the lotus. So he had one of these. And he would do puja to the Shalagram Shila. He would offer tulsi, Ganga water, flowers, and he would do this pretty much daily. He also taught. He taught school, he taught the Vedas, so he was virtually living a simple Brahmin or Brahminic culture. But he was known also as Nara. Must come this importunity of the Godhead that would draw him down to earth. So that was his job. Now, how long did he do that? He did that for years. He did it for years. Then, another Brahmin family. Got pregnant, and across the other side of the Ganga, Advaita was taking the flower offering, and then he tossed it into the Ganges. And his flower offering would go upstream, which is, of course, impossible. And it would float over, and on the other side of the Ganga would be Shachi Devi taking bath in the water, and the flower offering would come and stick to her. And when Advaita saw that the flower offering was going against the current of the river, I have to go and see where this is going. This is unusual. It must be going to this incarnation of God. And sure enough, he finds Shachi Devi, and the flower offering and get it off of her. And he sees her and he does his obeisances on the bank, his pranam on the bank. And then he goes away. Then she has a miscarriage. She has, I think it's a daughter. I'm pretty sure it was a girl. Anyway, this goes on and on. This keeps happening until she's lost 8 children. And I'm pretty sure they're all girls. And every time the flower offering, he puts it in and it goes upstream. Then he goes over to see where it goes, and sure enough, there's Shachi in the Ganga having taken her bath, and the flower offering sticks to her yet again. He sees her from the bank, and he pays his base and says, now she had another abortion. Miscarriage. And so she goes to her husband. He complains, Jagannath Mishra, there's some old Brahmin that keeps showing up and causing miscarriages. Every time we try to have a baby, and I get pregnant, this old Brahmin shows up. Advaita's in his 50s now, and I'm miscarrying. So anyway, they finally get to meet Advaita. And Advaita says, no, I'm not causing any miscarriage. You are due to give birth to the avatar of Vishnu, who's coming, who has been promised, who is coming, and I am here. I've been invoking him for many, many years, and now I see that you will be the family in which he will take birth. She says, but every time you send these flowers, I have a miscarriage. He says, yes, but that is not yet time. That's all. So finally, the final time she gets pregnant, it's Chaitanya. So let's see if we can pick up the story from there. In the meantime, Advaita Acharya initiates Jagannath Mishra and his wife into the Gopal mantra, so he actually becomes their mantra guru or initiating guru, Diksha guru. After some days, Sachi again becomes pregnant. As a result, Vishwarup, the abode of all good qualities, was born. This is the oldest son, and this was the incarnation of Balaram. Vishwarup was very detached. Even from a young age, he went away, and he became a renunciate. So now she's lost another baby, but not through miscarriage. And finally, after him, the older brother, then Chaitanya came along. One morning, Advaita Prabhu was worshipping Krishna on the bank of the Ganga with tulsi, sandalwood paste, and flowers. He offered flowers 3 times to the waters of the Ganga, which he considered a form of Krishna. By the will of Krishna, the flowers that he offered swiftly sailed to the side of Mother Sachi, as they had done so many times before. Seeing this, the astonished Sachi Devi unhappily thought, "Who is again delivering some flowers like this?" Quickly pushing aside the flowers and the tulsi, she came out of the riverbank chanting the names of Ram, Narayan, and Hari. And on seeing this, Advaita roared in ecstatic love and repeatedly chanted the name of Gauda Hari, the golden form of Lord. Gauda means golden. Then Advaita Prabhu, the husband of Sita Devi, circumambulated Sachi and offered obeisances to the child in her womb. Sachi Devi exclaimed, wait, don't do that. I'm becoming an offender by these actions of yours. When you previously offered obeisances like this, you caused the death of my children. Now please tell me why you are again offering obeisances to me. I am now your disciple. Saying this, she offered her obeisance again to Advaita, who in return blessed her, saying, "O mother, I promise you, there is no fear. From your womb you will get a son, like Krishna himself." Hearing that, Sachi went home in great happiness, and Advaita Prabhu chanted the holy names in transcendental ecstasy. The pregnancy lasted 13 months, not the usual 10 months. When they say 10 months, normally they say 10 months, they mean lunar months, not solar months. So this one went for 13 months.
What's the difference between solar and lunar months?
Lunar months is 28 days. You don't have those extra days like you do. So, it's a lunar month. It's 2 fortnights of the moon. Waxing moon, 2 weeks, waning moon. And then repeating that. Then, at the auspicious moment, Chaitanya appeared from the womb of Sachi as Nrsimha Dev had appeared from the stone pillar. The Supreme Personality of Godhead has no connection with the illusory energy, with Maya. He is the ocean of love and the embodiment of eternity, knowledge, and bliss. Sat, Chit, Ananda. What is God made out of? What is this form composed of? Earth, water, fire, air, ether, like us? No. Sat, Chit, Ananda. Eternity, knowledge or consciousness, and full bliss. Always. Wherever he resides is Vrindavan. He manifests his transcendental body to deliver the living entities. His father, mother, friends, and abode are all fully spiritual and eternally full of bliss. On the full moon night of the month of Falgun, February-March, in the year 1486, there was a lunar eclipse as Ketu and the moon were in conjunction. During this auspicious moment, when the moon was in the Lagna, or the rising sign of Leo, Singha, Mother Earth was in a joyful mood of devotion to Krishna, and that evening, as everyone chanted the transcendental name of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the moon was on the eastern horizon. just rising. Then the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, advented himself as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, or Gauda Hari. When there is an eclipse, eclipses are normally understood to be inauspicious. Whenever the sun or the moon, which are the luminaries, are eclipsed by the shadow planets Rahu or Ketu, it is inauspicious. And what was traditionally done in the Vedic age is the people would enter into a body of water, generally up to their waist. Could be any kind of body of water, a river, a lake, ocean. And they would chant the holy names or offer prayers, mantra, while the eclipse is going on. And I think it's a good footnote to add that because people love to watch the eclipse, as you all know. It's highly touted, and this is when you'll see it. Go look at it. You can look at it, but not if you're pregnant. If you're pregnant, it is not at all a good idea. The chance of losing the child is strengthened a lot if you're exposing yourself to the eclipse. So apart from being pregnant, then yes. So everybody was in the Ganga chanting the holy names when Chaitanya appeared. Gauranga's bodily hue resembled the golden moon. His maternity room was illumined as if by yellow moonshine, which is pretty good since the moon was eclipsed, no? His hands extended to his knees and his eyes resembled the lotus flower. I am unable to describe even a portion of his beauty. So Advaita was very pleased. He became one of the primary associates of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Nityananda as well. His mission to convince God to appear, as I said in my title, or invoke the appearance or avatar of the Godhead, was now complete. And then from there, as we know, Chaitanya inaugurated in his early 20s the Sankirtan movement. Chaitanya himself became a vast scholar, also a Shrutidar, able to retain anything having read it once, or heard it once. Shruti means hearing. And even at the age of 12, he could defeat famous Vedic scholars because they used to debate. Debate was very popular back then. So Chaitanya was defeating the famous Vedic scholars even from the age of 12. So he developed quite a reputation. His beauty, his attraction, his attractive quality, his magnetism was incomparable. You could not see him and not be attracted to him. He and Nityananda, both their arms would go down to their knees. They're very tall, very beautiful, and they both had golden complexions. As Chaitanya began to manifest his potency out in the world, hundreds of thousands of people would come to see him. And people would travel for miles if they heard that he was going to be someone. When he went through Jharkhand forest, one time, or more than once, on his way to Vrindavan, he did go to Vrindavan. Eventually, also toward South India, he went on Tirtha toward many of the holy places. And when he went through Jharkhand forest, he was often in a state of transcendental ecstasy. So, he's sort of standing there, but his mind is elsewhere. He's in the spiritual realm, and he's with Krishna. So he would, this chanting of the holy names, which is the Yuga Dharma, which we recommend here. This is the main program, is to chant and clear your karma and develop your love for God and go back to Godhead at the end of this lifetime. That's what this is all about. That's why Chaitanya came, and Advaita, and Nityananda. That's why Prabhupada came to the West, our founder, Acharya. Many of the disciples of his guru, Bhaktisiddhanta, were told to go to the West. One came before Prabhupada, nothing really happened, he went back. And Prabhupada came, 1965, and he was the one who apparently was empowered, because now it's spread throughout the world. Chaitanya had predicted when he was here 500 years ago that the chanting of the holy names would be heard in every town and village throughout the world. That's a pretty bold prediction, I'd say. Well, it's kind of happening. It's been happening. It keeps spreading. So it will take time. Prabhupada came to New York in 1965. I met up with them in 1972, some 50 years ago. And much has happened since then, but it's going to take a long time before this fully has the impact that it can. Prabhupada said, yes, it will happen. It will take, in the next 10,000 years. That's what he said. 10,000 years. And you said 10,000 years. Well, how do you wrap your mind around that? Well, you're in Kali Yuga, which is 432,000 Earth years in duration. Sometimes you'll read the Vedas where they say it's only 16,000 years. I can't remember what it was, but when they say that, they're talking about celestial years in the higher planets. Down here, it's 432,000 solar years. Approximately 5,000 years have passed, which means there's 420,000 years left only. So as you can imagine, 10,000 years of that is like very short amount of time. So as Kali Yuga will diminish, it will, what's the word, decline. Morals will decline, lifespan will decline. It's the age of conflict, hypocrisy. Hypocrisy is very, very evident even now. Hypocrisy, you can see so many people in positions of power and authority that they don't belong there. They claim themselves to be qualified for this or that, but by their actions and their behavior, and you can see they're not. You know, like, here's an oxymoron for you. Irish government. Now that's a contradiction in terms. That's my own joke that I enjoy. That's an example. So over time, it doesn't get better, it keeps diminishing. So we recommend get off the wheel of samsara, repeat birth and death. Establish your loving, reciprocal relationship with God. And get out of here. Go back to Godhead where you belong. Because you're eternal. You're not a temporary soul. And enough of this death business. Stop believing in death. Thank you very much for your kind attention. Let me finish off by saying a couple of quotes from Chaitanya Charitamrita. The position of being a devotee is considered to be higher than that of having equality with God. It's better to be a devotee than say, I'm God, you're God, we're all God. I'm going to merge into the oneness, into the energy of the Godhead. Is that possible? Yeah. But that's not as good as being a devotee, is what they're saying here. For the devotees are dearer to Krishna than his own self. And there's many quotes to support that. Although the members of the Panchatattva have plundered the storehouse of love of Godhead and ate and distributed its contents, there is no scarcity. There's no limit to say, oh, well, that's already been consumed. There is no scarcity, for this wonderful storehouse is so complete that as the love of God is distributed, the supply increases hundreds of times. Here in the material world, seemingly there are limits on what's available. And we can run out of things. It's not that we can't, say if we ran out of wheat, we could grow more wheat, but here things have limits. In the spiritual realm, there are no limits. So it's not like you're going to miss out. You won't. So we encourage you to chant, to offer your food before you eat your food, and offer it to Krishna, offer it to God, so that the food becomes purified and transformed into prasad, the mercy of God. And then you eat it, and it creates no karma. It actually burns off your karma. And we all go back to God. Thank you very much for your kind attention. Are there any questions? Emily?
I'm going to try and formulate 3 questions, if you have time. The first one is that you were saying near the start that Vishnu and Shiva merged and incarnated.
As Advaita.
Yeah.
Right.
So is it possible like, sometimes you hear these new agey people saying, no, I know they're not who we should be listening to, but you'd hear them saying stuff like, a soul split or 2 souls got together. Like, is it possible, like, is everyone just, I know obviously the Vedas say everyone's an individual soul, but is it possible for 2 souls to come together or 1 soul to split apart and become 2 souls anywhere along the
Okay,
line?
see, yeah, we're talking about the Godhead here coming together, and now you're asking whether regular souls like us are able to do that. I don't know. Does anybody know the answer to that? I know that souls can travel through different lifetimes together. I know that for a fact.
I think it's important for people to have space so that they can grow. They come together, they must come apart. I think when they can merge for a little bit, but I don't know, maybe.
But you're thinking, you're sort of speculating, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's fine. I appreciate that. But I'm saying, does anybody have any solid information as to whether that is doable? I don't know. So I wouldn't claim to know.
Okay.
It sounds very new agey though.
It does, yeah. It's just
Yeah.
just when you're thinking on the nature of the soul, I suppose these questions sometimes come to mind. Maybe they don't for other people, but for me, if you're thinking about the nature of the soul, you're going to think, if you've gone through so many millions of
Well, you hear
lifetimes.
sometimes about twin souls. I don't know.
I think that's another.
That's a different
it's
thing.
a speculation, really, isn't it? Or like
Well,
you
it's a
said, you don't hear
speculation if
that.
I start speculating on it, because I don't have any real knowledge of it.
Okay, I'll go on to it. The next question is, you said that Narada Muni came again as one of the Panchatattva.
Yeah, it would be an aspect of Narada Muni, or maybe it was fully Narada Muni. I don't know, but I mean, you can read the Duryodhana Deepika and find out who everybody was in their past life. And Narada Muni appeared in the form of Srivas, as Lord Brahma appeared in the form of Haridas Thakur. And sometimes Haridas Thakur is called Brahma Haridas.
Does it say that he comes again, Narada Muni?
Narada Muni
Yeah,
in some other form?
yeah.
I don't know about that. I haven't read that.
What, can I get the name of that scripture you said that you can read to find out past lives? I'll get it off you later.
Oh, Duryodhana Deepika.
Yeah, I don't think I'll remember that one off the top of my head.
There's the Duryodhana Deepika that tells you all the personalities that appeared along with Lord Chaitanya. There's lots of them, and who they were in other lifetimes, and who they sometimes, some of them are combined energies together. And then there's another Shastra called Krishna Ganadesh Deepika, which tells you of all the personalities in Krishna Lila and who they were. Like some of the personalities that appeared alongside Chaitanya were actually gopis in Krishna Lila. And there was, what's his name? There was, I'm sorry, I haven't read about him recently. There was one male devotee. No, who appeared alongside Chaitanya, and he was a bit older than Chaitanya, and I can't remember his name, he would always scold Chaitanya and just give him a hard time, and he's a very critical guy, you know, this wasn't done right, you can't do this, and you're breaking a rule or a regulation, you know, he's that kind of guy. So telling you what you're doing wrong, you know people like that, don't you? And it turns out he was Krishna's wife, Satyabhama, during Krishna Lila. Of course, we know that Krishna was married to, how many? 16,108 wives. The 16,000 was his rescue of these women that were imprisoned. But anyway, I won't go into all that. Satyabhama was one of his principal queens. There were 8 principal queens that Krishna had. Krishna's God, maybe he was. But Satyabhama was the one that was always like this, giving Krishna a hard time, you know. Sometimes you have a wife who's very loving and considerate. Sometimes you have a wife who's always at you. Now, this could be, I know ladies, this can be vice versa. It can go the other way too. You can have a husband like that. So, but Satyabhama was Krishna's prickly wife, who then appeared as the same type of nature in this devotee. I just can't. Does anybody know the name? I don't remember it. Sorry. And
So, third question is, you were saying about a statement about Sita, said a statement about liberation, where I'll give you have it, but my question is that if liberation is better than the word mukta now.
then bhakti, then devotional service.
Yeah. So what's the difference? Like if you're liberated, do you not go back to Godhead immediately? Like where can?
Well, the concept here is more of the jnana yoga concept, or the Ashtanga yoga concept. The goal of Ashtanga yoga, or jnana yoga, the yoga of knowledge, Ashtanga yoga is jnana, dharana, pratyahara, asana, pranayama, all of those practices. And the goal is pretty much, the yogis want yoga siddhi. They want, some of them want powers, special mystical powers, which you get. But ultimately, you want moksha. You want to get off the wheel of repeated birth and death. So yoga can deliver that. Jnana yoga, or cultivation of spiritual knowledge, can also deliver that. So once you achieve that, if you do achieve that, which is of course something special, then you stop the practice of those things because you've achieved it, and now you are a liberated soul. But bhakti is different in the sense that you're developing a loving reciprocal relationship with God, a loving relationship. If you may recognize that the thing we all want in the world more than anything is love. We all do. We want love from every direction, and we want a loving reciprocal relationship, usually with our significant other, our wife, our husband. But we also want loving relationships with our children, with our friends, with our neighbors, with people we meet randomly or we see regularly when we go to the supermarket, whatever, or to the school. We all want that more than anything. So what's the highest manifestation of the loving experience? It's to have a loving reciprocal relationship with God Himself. And when you achieve moksha, or liberation, having gone down the path of bhakti, or shall I say gone up the path of bhakti, then when you die, you continue doing the same thing. You don't stop doing loving devotional service. It continues. And in the spiritual world, this loving relationship doesn't remain static like it does sometimes in the material world. It can level off, it can plateau, or after time it can diminish. People who fall in love often and over time fall out of love, correct? We know that. You know, if you tell me that, well, I'm in a relationship, this is my second one, well, then that tells me that something happened in the first one and it didn't last. I have sometimes people tell me this is my 8th marriage. Oh, okay. And I look at the astrology chart and I go, okay, so here's the main lesson. This person I said, have you learned this? I said, are you manifesting the same guy over and over and over again, different face, different body, still hasn't learned the lesson on number 8. Yeah, I'm not exaggerating. That's actually happened. So we want, in the spiritual realm, our loving experience increases. It increases. It doesn't plateau. It doesn't diminish. Our loving relationship with Krishna gets stronger and stronger, and it expands over time. Because there's no limit in the spiritual world. That's why. All right?
One question. When you mentioned love with your children, is it like you mentioned it should be understood in the sense of platonic love? You mean like empathy?
I heard platonic love, and then what?
A sense of empathy, because I mean, like, you know.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's various kinds of love. Empathy, too, platonic love. I mean, I'm just saying, we don't have to be an intimate, loving relationship, but we want to have loving relationships. You know, we are all sitting here together. Most of us are strangers. We don't know each other. But we feel a kinship or a connection because somehow we're all in this room together. If we got to know each other, we'd want to have a good relationship, a friendly relationship, what to speak of a loving relationship over time. And some of you who have come to know each other by coming here or someplace else, you have become friends. Maybe some of you have become very good friends. I don't know. But that's natural to us. We want that. We all want that. Right? I mean, does anybody here not want it? Because, you know, you'd be, I guess you'd be a sociopath or Something like that. In which case you wouldn't want to put your hand up. But, you know, the rest of us want it. Okay? Does that make sense? Yes, you can be empathetic, sympathetic. You can be, you can love. You know, there's universal love. Love of humanity. Being charitable, kind, benevolent, all these things. But the highest level is love of God. If you love God, who are we all? We are all included in that. When you water the root of the tree, that's the analogy. When you love God, you are watering the root of the tree. All the branches and leaves are satisfied. Where are the branches and leaves? So everybody's included. Yeah? Each one.
In reading the literature, it says that Narada Muni appeared at the time that the Vishnu appeared. And that he did not appear in the age of Kali Yuga.
Well, he didn't appear as Narada Muni. He appeared as Srivastava.
I say, yeah, not as Narada Muni.
Yeah, not as Narada Muni.
Another question. When we chant around, we turn 108 beats. And 4 rounds. 4 rounds is equivalent to 432. And 8 rounds is 860. To 64. There seems to be some relationship between the chanting of beats and the ages. Which
Yeah.
we do with,
Correct.
4, 8, 12 rounds.
You're right.
Will be Tetra Yuga.
Yeah.
And 16 rounds will be Satya Yuga. There's a relationship between those figures. And is that why Prabhupada
It's not coincidental.
16 rounds?
Well, Prabhupada and his God brothers were told to chant 64 rounds a day.
Yes.
That takes 8 hours. So I know a lot of you have 8 hours to sit down and chant every day, correct? Not practical. Unless you're really renounced and you're full-time, you know, you're a yogi. And that's what you're doing. And life in the material world, so to speak, it's not that functional. So he reduced it to 16 rounds, which is 2 hours. But even if you can't do that, 1 round, 2 rounds, 3 rounds, do whatever you can do. You can walk down the street chanting. You don't have to have japa mala. You can chant while driving your car, while sitting in the Lewis, while daydreaming. You can chant. You can chant. That's just chant quietly.
So explain the relationship between these figures and the ages.
Well, obviously, if it's based on 108, it's an auspicious number. 108 is 1 is creator, 0 is the creation, and 8 is the eternity. It's a spiritual number. Right? What's 9 times 9?
9 times 9 is 81.
81. 9 times 12, that's it.
108.
Yeah, that's it. 9 times 12. 9 planets, 12 signs.
So that's,
Yeah. I mean, many of the numbers have great significance. 9, 12, 7, 3. Well, you know, there are many. We don't have time to get into all of them. Okay, I better wrap it up here. We're over time.
thank you.
Thank you very much, Bruce. I'm going to have Kirtan. Thank you. I'm going to have Kirtan, and then after Kirtan, you will be served a sumptuous vegetarian feast of Mahaprasad.
Ayo.
Very good.
Ayun.